hop into your Bronco, hold on to your pancakes, and take a drive with us to Maine as we return to Haven. This is Troubled, your favorite rewatch podcast dedicated to the Sci-Fi Channel show Haven, based on the Stephen King novella The Colorado Kid. I'm your first host in our father-son duo podcast, Alex French.
And I'm Rich French, the co-host, and I'm ready to go with my pencil in my right hand, like Bob Dole. No one eats Bob Dole's peanut butter.
And you can listen to us wherever you listen, like Apple, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher. And if you want to reach us, we're going to have all that information at the end of the episode and as well as the show notes. So go ahead and look there if you're looking for that information first. Let's just jump into the episode, right? We want to summarize. We're doing episode 4, Consumed.
Or as I like to call it, the Duke-isode.
The Duke-isode. Episode starts, it starts with Audrey approaching Duke on the dock, right? They kind of just like chat, flirt a little bit. Pretty pointless scene. It's just kind of filler. It's just popcorn, just something to like chew on. Gum, I guess, is a better analogy. There's really nothing going on here. Like, except Duke speaks Russian, right?
It's another chance to show how worldly Duke is. He speaks. It sounds like Russian to me, and it does start this recurring theme through the show about how Audrey looks nice, and everyone says she looks nice, and she it's like nice. And I got a little irritated with it after a while, but it is a recurring theme of the episode. But yeah, not the strongest scene.
Not the strongest scene, but a nice little setup for the joke. I didn't mind the joke throughout the episode. I should say this. I didn't mind the joke. The execution wasn't always perfect. I felt like they could have written the lines a little better. Moving on from that, Duke is like, well, why don't you go check out the farmer's market? Such a kind of a clunky transition. Yeah. So we cut to Audrey at the farmer's market where a woman is complaining to a guy that his food's rotten, and we look around and everything rots instantaneously, right?
Right, and everyone starts yakking all over the place.
Right. So Audrey's kind of, trying to figure out what's going on. Nathan shows up, and they get a call from Eleanor, right, about the 6 sailors, kind of.
Yeah, they do, but that's later down the road a little bit. After the farmer's market, we get our montage, and it's just the original montage. So, but what they notice is that the different stands. It wasn't all the stands had rotted. It was only certain stands that had rotted. So their next move was to go and check out all the farms.
Oh, right, the farms.
Right. So the first one they go to is the Stewart farm. That's the Scottish farmer with the partner Angus, and our
first LGBTQ plus. Personality on the show. We haven't had one yet, have we?
Yeah, not yet that I've noticed. But in actuality, Dunn wanted him to be a gay couple, but it turned into them being business partners. Anyway,
well, how do you know? He doesn't say business partner; he just says partner.
Right.
So I know. I should say it's from a 2020 perspective. I took that as they're a couple. So I don't know. Maybe. In 2010, that would have been different, but I think in 2020, when I hear that word, I'm like, oh, when he says partner, if he meant business partner, they would have put business partner, I think. Right.
Well, and that's what Sammer said in the commentary. But I think in 2010, that today my partner, you can blame Angus for that, and I'm not going to do a Scottish accent. I suck.
Not even Connery.
But I'll take swords. For 500. That's a bad Connery too. Jeez, yeah, you might want to edit that one.
No, that's staying in.
Oh God, great.
So then the second
that one to the cream.
So the second farmer kind of just shows them more rotten stuff, right? Or then we get the horny chickens, right?
Yeah, the horny hens, right? Horny hens. But we cannot move on from this scene without talking about really quickly about how the farmer is like really digging her some Nathan.
Was she?
Oh my God, you don't remember that? She's like, because she's looking at the hens in the pen, and she's like, looks okay, still chasing the hens. And then she looks right at Nathan. Not all of them mind being caught. I thought it was one of the best lines of the entire show. I mean,
because every woman in Haven wants Nathan. You'd think it's Duke, but Nathan's
Duke only is with the foreign nationals, but so Nathan's got all the locals to clean up on. But yeah, because Audrey even gives kind of like a wow look and then like a smile. And
Right. So the third farmer, it's just more of the same rotten food, right? In the tree.
yeah, a portion of the apple orchard is rotted right on the tree.
Right.
And kind of the red herring in those were the organic stuff, like organic feed and things.
Right.
But, and they don't even really follow that thread at all, really, after that point.
Okay, so then they get the call from Eleanor that a bunch of kids that were sailing got sick and then they find out it's from like frozen treats, right?
Right. It's the Big Benji's bar. But before that, Nathan gets a call from the lab, and they figure out that what destroyed all the food was hydrochloric acid, like stomach acid. But then we get to go to investigate the Big Benji's bar.
Right. So then they figure out where Big Benji's ice cream is made. They go over, they go into the shop because they keep the cows there. That's kind of the draw, is the cows are in the back of the shop in the backyard. Store owner's got a nice big hug for Nathan.
He calls him Nate, and which shoots my theory I espoused last time that, Dukin and Nathan must be so close because he calls him Nate. But as we hear a couple people call him Nate in this episode, so that must have been the name he went by in his childhood. One really cool line from this scene is regarding the cows being in the shop. Audrey's not really buying, having the cows in the shop. And then Nathan says, "How do you not love meeting the cow that made your ice cream possible?" I just thought that was cool.
She should have been like, "Do you want to meet the cow that's your cheeseburger?" I don't know.
Not the same day. Give me time to grieve.
Okay, so then they go out back. The cows are dying. The udders are swollen and basically just burst with black pus, like rotted.
Black ooze.
Yeah. It's a pretty good scene. Pretty good. It's pretty gross. I liked it. Got a reaction from me.
Yeah, and a little fake looking, but the 2010 and on that budget, fun fact, those were real cows, but don't worry, no bovines were harmed in the episode. They just gave them medication to make them look like they were dead.
They decide they kind of tie it all together and figure out what all this food supply, it all leads to Second Chance Bistro, right?
Right, run by the McShaw brothers, Bill and Jeff. All
right. So they decide to head over there to Second Chance Bistro, where they run into Duke himself with his mystery box.
Yes, the famous mystery box. And the way it works is he won't tell you what's in it, but you have to buy it.
So $500, you buy the box. Pretty typical mystery box. So he sells him the box, and we get this is our little kind of cast of suspects for the mystery of who's rotten the food is kind of in this kitchen, right? We meet the two brothers. One's Jeff is the hoity-toity chef who wants perfection, is making pigeons. Bill's the kind of overshadowed brother holding the restaurant together, doing the finances, but Jeff doesn't treat the best. We get Katarina, the sous chef, who has kind of a weird relationship with Jeff.
I think it's clear that they're it's romantic on her side. I mean, they're hooking up, man. I don't care 2010, 2020, they're hooking up, and but nonetheless,
I don't know if they're hooking up. Maybe she wants to hook up, but Jeff doesn't he doesn't.
I cannot respond to that because it gives away too much of the plot. This too early, so we will come back to that.
And then Bill's wife,
Meg,
who doesn't really like Jeff, and she doesn't like how much they're spending, and he's going to fuck up the restaurant, and how much stress Jeff puts on Bill. So we get a nice little melting pot of bad chemistry.
Yeah. There's plenty of suspects there. So at the beginning, it goes down their normal path where identify 1, A, B, C. We get there at the end.
Right. And then, so they're kind of talking to them, kind of getting the lay of the land, and trying to figure out if there's anything to this when they go to inspect where the pigeons are raised, right? And they kind of talk to Katarina a little.
Well, Katarina points them towards Meg, saying that Meg's got a problem with Jeff.
Right.
And then the pigeons fall, one crashes into the windshield, and we get I've seen this movie before, and it doesn't end well. Why?
Well, because tons of pigeons, right? Everywhere.
Yeah, but only one hits. Yeah, they have to dive into the vehicle, and that's when one hits the window.
Yeah.
And that was Sammer's like favorite line of the episode was he didn't even mention how Hitchcocky, like with the birds. But
we get we get a scene where Audrey talks to Meg, right? And it's right. Is that before the dress scene?
Yeah,
it's not too much. It's basically just her saying.
Well, it establishes the dynamic. Bill doesn't like running the restaurant, and that's why there's resentment between them. Bill likes woodworking, and she wants him to do woodworking, but their parents, it's been in the family for generations, and their parents made them the brothers promise they would keep it. So Jeff runs off gallivanting, learning cooking around the world, when Bill, the guy who doesn't like restaurants, is forced to stay there and run it, and how unhappy it makes him and how that upsets Meg.
Right. After that discussion, we get a scene of Audrey trying on dresses. She's trying to find one for the Second Chance Bistro's big opening that night. Meanwhile, we get our fucking first sighting of Vince and Dave since the pilot. They show up to watch her try on dresses and make suggestions until they finally find the right one.
Vince actually recommends which one that ends up being the winner, the blue dress at the end. And before that, we did have Nathan checking into John Robert, the owner of the Lobster Pup. And that's the restaurant of the processed lobster, just to rule him out as a suspect because he was interested in buying it. John Robert doesn't need to sabotage the brothers. He says Jeff's doing a good job of that himself.
They go to the big dinner, the big grand opening at the bistro, kind of keeping, Audrey and Nathan are having a nice dinner with a bunch of other people there, and they're trying to just keeping their eyes out to see how the food's if another incident's gonna happen with the food when things start to go wrong. Or, well, Duke shows up, right?
Duke shows up, it's the grand opening of his, what appears to be his two closest friends.
But things are kind of boiling over as...
one thing, Nathan points out to Bill that Jeff's been in communication with John Robert, who was interested in buying the restaurant. And that's what starts the argument. Yeah. It explodes.
So then the salmon all goes rotten in the middle of like this, they argue and Jeff's trying to present his food. The food goes rotten. The whole night's a fucking disaster. Everybody's disgusted. Everybody leaves. And afterwards, Jeff and Bill get into a pretty big fight, right?
Right. The argument gets kicked up a notch, and to the point where Jeff threatens to leave and go back to New York to work for his ex.
Yeah, and Katarina's like, well, what about us? And he's like, yeah, sorry, honey. You'll never make it.
You wouldn't make it a day in New York.
Then he throws the pocket knife, tosses the pocket knife, at the wall, and storms out.
The pocket knife of destiny. It's the next morning when Audrey meets Nathan down at the docks.
Jeff
discovers Jeff is dead.
Jeff died. They're kind of looking into it, but in the meantime, they talk to Duke about it. Duke is just pretty broken up about it. I'm not really sure what information does he give anything valuable?
Down in the boat, he gives, Duke explains, he doesn't really give anything up, deck side, but when they get below the deck is when he shares his relationship with the brothers and why they're so close.
Yeah, they were good friends as kids. They used the knife to make PB&Js instead of kill a chicken or whatever it was, or a bird of some kind.
It was a duck because maybe he deserved a second chance.
Yeah, so then the Second Chance Bistro, blah, blah, blah. Duke's pretty broken up. Audrey's, trying to cheer him up out on the dock after their intense conversation because, him and Nathan, things never go nicely between them.
Yeah, I thought Nathan was polite in this one, in that interview. He laid off on the usual Nathan hates Duke thing.
This is where we kind of figure out who it is, right? Who's rotting the food. Correct? As Audrey goes to visit Meg, finds the ice cream wrapper on the floor that's his stress food for when he's working. So we now know that he's eaten all the food that has gone bad at some point. So they go to the Second Chance Bistro to confront Bill about it, which is a pretty hilarious scene as she's like, just eat some of your lobster and we'll leave.
Well, and she gets him to eat the lobster, but then she very aggressively accuses him of killing his brother, which then upsets him so that his trouble activates and it
rots all the lobsters. And now she says they both ate salmon. So now Bill thinks he killed his brother. But that's not what killed him. It was actually we found out earlier in the episode that he is allergic to sesame seeds, right?
Yeah, sesame seed oil.
So they need to figure out who killed Jeff. And at this point, we got one likely suspect, which is our sous chef, Katerina. They kind of call her in for a meeting, and how do they do it? They kind of, try to get the truth out of her, and then they're threatening with Bill eating a sandwich, right?
Eating the rest of her sandwich, that she's still got it inside her, and it would go bad. And Nathan's bringing up well, you're a local, you're from here, you've heard about the troubles, and she's like, oh, those are just stories. And he's like, are they just stories? And then she freaks out. Tells him the truth, admits that, she was mad at him and she just wanted to make him sick. So she put some sesame oil on a pastry and gave it to him. And it's really cool. She confesses, but then Nathan comes back and goes, oh, those are just stories for all the campfire kids, the scared kids at the campfire.
Right, because he doesn't want the whole town knowing the truth about the troubles.
The troubles.
Already walking in his father's footsteps.
A good chip off the old chromosome, as they say.
Yeah. Yeah, we get some some wrap up. Kind of, I think the important parts is Duke. They have a little funeral for Jeff outside by the bonfire. Bill and Meg and Audrey's there, and Duke shows up, and they do a reverse mystery box where Bill gives him a mystery box, and it turns out to be the deed and, to the Second Chance Bistro, which will become a very famous location moving forward with a new name.
And part of the deal is, you have to buy the box sight unseen. So he buys the Second Chance for $20. Bill gets his chance to pursue his woodworking dream.
Right.
So,
and then finally, we go back to the police office, and Audrey's dressing up like a local and embracing her Haven Mainness, much to the amusement of Nathan.
She makes that comment about, there's two havens, one right beneath the surface and one right beneath that one. And Nathan plays it off as all small towns are like that. And she's like, no, not really. And she says Nathan lives in both havens, which they'll find useful. I really like that because he's the trouble specialist, and he knows all the people, and she's the really good investigator, with the crime-solving mind.
Yeah, that one was definitely a tagline for the commercials, and the previously ons, they played that a bunch. One of the more famous lines, I think, from season 1. What'd you think of the episode? Let's do some ratings.
Ratings, I'd probably give it probably a 3 to 3.5.
How would you compare? Okay, so we've watched 4 episodes. We watched pilot. We'll kind of push away the pilot because pilots are unique, have their own business to take care of. But of episode 2, 3, and 4, kind of how do you rank them? Because these episodes are tied together in a unique way that the rest of them aren't, which, we'll keep talking about. But between 2, 3, and 4, kind of how would you rank them?
Probably 3, 2, 4.
3, 2, 4. So 3. So it's Harmony is your favorite, then Butterfly, then this.
Yes. So I really did like the pilot a lot.
Okay. Yeah. I was just kind of separating that because it's not in the unique situation 2, 3, and 4. As I think this is important to talk about because, as we talked about a bunch, there was an episode switcheroo between episodes 2, 3, and 4 because was this one episode 2 originally?
Yes.
Okay. So this one was episode 2 originally. Then episode 3, I guess, was episode 3, and episode 2 was episode 4, or something like that. The important part is episode 2 and 4 switched around.
And the switching around caused them, to take scenes out of they had to swap scenes and rewrite and reshoot stuff, and it really messes with the continuity.
I actually liked this episode a lot. There were some issues. There were some scenes I didn't like. I didn't like, obviously, the dressing room scene. And the beginning scene with Audrey and Duke felt pretty out of place. But as we found out in the listening to the commentary, that's because those were shot later, or the opening scene was attached from a different episode to this one to fill that space. And then the dressing room scene was inserted later because they took big moments from this episode and put them into episode 2.
Right. Originally, in this, when this was episode 2, this is when Chief gave Audrey the offer to join. But
right. So they had to cut that out and put it into.
Yeah, I think it really impacted the way the episodes flowed itself, and it was still good. I still liked it a lot. When just because I rank them doesn't mean I didn't like it.
Right.
Usually even a bad episode of Haven I like just because of the concept itself and the actors. One thing I didn't feel like the supporting actors, the guest actors, were very strong.
No, they weren't. Like I said, as we talked a little before we started recording, I thought Jeff and Bill were pretty weak, which was hilarious to hear in the commentary that the producers thought that Jeff, the guy who played Jeff, was going to get was up for Nathan's role. and they really liked him a lot. And I was like, I don't, I'm not really seeing what you guys are.
Yeah, was it Jeff or Bill?
For sure, Jeff.
My notes: a actor who played Bill auditioned for Nathan.
You're wrong. Just kidding. We'll if there's a correction to be made, it'll be in the next episode.
All right.
But I'm fairly certain it was Jeff. I'm almost positive it was Jeff.
All right, father-son conflict. All right. Yeah, losers out of the will.
We'll bet a penny on it. I think this fuckery with switching the episodes around really fucked things up. I think this was a horrendous mistake. Personally, I think Butterfly is easily the worst episode. And I also think its placement is what weakens it. The serious Nathan episode comes too soon. I think if we had Nathan, this episode was episode 2, we get a bit of a better balance. We kind of get familiarized with Nathan still. We get a little bit more Duke because he doesn't have much of a role in episode 1, whereas like Nathan has a bit more meat in episode 1. So I think that would be good for episode 2, and then Butterfly for episode 3. The music one can kind of be. The music one actually I think fits best as 4 because that's when we get the Audrey Parker, we get the Lucy clue. Because right now it feels weird that we get the Troubles revealed in episode 2, then Lucy gets revealed in episode 3, then this one has no connection to any big storyline at all.
Zero.
Which was what's so funny is they put such emphasis on the previously on showing all the like big clues, but then there is no advancement of that part of the story.
Yeah, it's misleading. And their reasons for it, they had their reasons for it. They thought the structure and the characters in this episode, in Butterfly, were better for establishing kind of the Haven episode model. And they wanted that too, hoping it would make viewers come back for week 3. That was their rationale.
Wrong. All right.
I'm with you.
They should trust, the guy who's never been hired to write TV over their own judgment. Over successful showrunners, they should trust my opinion. I'm just kidding. I think they should have left, like I said, so just to summarize, this should have been episode 2. Because also I think there's a good chance of denial of the Troubles in this moment, right? Nathan can kind of go along with it and at the end to do his shtick of trying to convince Katarina that the Troubles are real. And, and then instead of being like, well, I don't want the locals to know, when he whispers that to kind of Audrey at the end, he could still be like, oh, I think this is bullshit, right? Like, I was just fucking around with her to get what I wanted and still not really believe and be like, oh, there is an answer. And then in episode 3, it kind of sets up that reveal better because him revealing in episode 2, like, oh, yeah, by the way, the Troubles happened in 1983 and I've known about them all along. Like, haha, remember when I was doubting in the pilot? It totally undermines that. And it also continues to build this, like, is she staying? Is she going? Like, what's going on? So then when she kind of agrees to stay on in Butterfly, that's fine. Or move those scenes to episode 2. I don't know. I think this reordering stuff was wholly unnecessary and really, I think, damaged because I looked at the ratings and the ratings for episode 2 are fine, but then there's a big drop to episode 3, which I think is and episode 4, which I think are both better than episode 2. Actually, the ratings for episode 4 go up a little bit. So I think it's a case of people seeing episode 2, not liking it because I don't think it's a very strong episode. And then episode 3, they kind of see is better. And so the ratings go hop up a little bit for episode 4. Sometimes it's worth noting that you could say a show tanked, but maybe it's because of the time slots. I know with Doctor Who, that's a huge issue. They have ratings issues, but it's because BBC's time slotting in England. They totally fuck up the situation for Doctor Who. Sorry, that was just a huge rant I had to get off my chest about this reordering that I felt was a mistake.
Yeah, I agree with you. My big takeaway is, we already had our Audrey and Nathan episode, so now it was time to introduce to the softer side of Duke, the Duke-isode. I know it may have been cheesy, but I really liked getting to see the other side of Duke. He's supposed to be a semi-scoundrel. But then the question is, okay, if he's supposed to be a semi-scoundrel, is this too soon to show his soft side? Should have waited a little longer before we got to see Duke's soft side, or?
I guess that's the question is, and maybe even the music episode could be early because I guess that was the question is do we want to show our hand on Duke having a softer side or do we want to show our hand on Nathan having a angrier, harder side first? And they chose to do the Nathan one first, which I actually think is the bigger mistake. I think showing Duke's softer side is the lesser of two evils. Because then I think it also justifies the music episode where he's like, hey, I want to come with because I want to know if the Troubles are really, if this is really coming back, right? Because then we already know, oh, he's got a little bit of a softer side. So it makes sense. He's kind of, he does care about this community versus when it happened, you're kind of like, what the fuck? This guy doesn't give a shit about anything but himself. For this episode.
But he lived through the times of the Troubles, so he knows how fucked up shit gets when the Troubles, because the Troubles are dangerous. And
right, but you have no context, but also you have no context of what his personality is really like, because how he is in episode 1 is a surface level thing, right? So I think this episode presents who he is more as a person. He's like loyal, even if he's not always morally good, he's loyal, right? There's like people like that who they don't give a shit about being like good or bad, but they give a shit about protecting those close to them. And I think that's important to the music harmony, where he is concerned about the Haven community overall because he's concerned about the Troubles returning versus us seeing nothing about him then. And I know what you just said as the explanation is he did live through it, but I think that's not as strong as what this episode gives us and then that episode. These are building blocks that I think they completely built backwards. They built a pyramid upside down.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. All of the adjusting wasn't necessary. I mean, like I said, I still like the episodes. It's just that they made it much harder on themselves. And,
it's a lot of difficulty, a lot of scene switching, and all. Like, I'm sure it wasn't fun for production either, having to like jump in and reshoot stuff. So I think, just can't sound like a broken record. I just can't state enough how I thought that was unnecessary and was a detriment to the overall product.
Well, and and then good things. We got a taste of what it must have been like to grow up in Haven for Nathan and Duke. The ice cream shop. The sailing club, even though they were puking all over the place. And
did Duke get to I don't think Duke got to be part of the sailing club.
No, I wasn't saying he was part of the sailing club, but I mean just, what life was like, for a kid in Haven. You go to your ice cream shop where the cows are right out back. I think that's pretty cool. Audrey thought there must be a zoning issue or something, but, I thought that was neat. Another thing is, I remember that Duke owned the restaurant, but for some reason, I didn't think it was till way down the road. I didn't realize it was the 4th episode. That makes me wonder, do we not revisit it for a while? And
I think he owns it.
I
think he owns it. It just becomes a more prominent setting and scene location later. I thought it was around this early, but I forgot that he owned it this early. That's the thing. It's I knew it came in fairly early, the Grey Gull, but I forgot that I didn't think he acquired ownership of it till season 2 or something.
You just gave a reveal of the name, the Grey Gull. So
we said it episode 2.
We probably I know we've said it, but yeah. Well, when I saw it, when I was watching, I would go, "There's the Grey Gull," and then Second Chance Bistro. I don't remember Second Chance Bistro. You should have killed the duck, damn it. Yeah, I found that, really interesting. Because my mind played tricks on me. Yeah, I was just going to say, we got more of the forming of the love triangle here. This is kind of like the Duke and Audrey legs of the triangle.
The episode where it's feasible that Duke could be a romantic interest. Whereas before you're like, he's kind of a jokester, but, there's nothing there. And now you're kind of like, oh... Wait a minute.
Duke seems like he's warming up to her quite a bit. Yeah. Take her out for some fine dining with some Lobster Pups.
Well, now he's got, now he's got his own place. He can take all his dates to the Grey Gull.
Yeah, that was neat.
You can tell there's a bedroom upstairs.
Yeah, that'll come into play later. Yeah. Definitely. I was wrong about Duke calling Nathan Nate, as I think I mentioned it during the recap when I probably should have saved it for here. We know there's a relationship there, and even that was there, and in a commentary, Ernst says they will explain it. So it gets explained this season. Because, Benji called him Nate. Bill called him Nate. I think someone else called him Nate. So
might just be his childhood name, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. When he was a young lad, before he was Officer Warnos. Nathan is the Haven stud. The ladies can't get enough of him. We're seeing that. First, we got naked meteor showers, and now we've got horny hens who don't mind being caught. Which I loved. I thought it was hilarious.
Where will Nathan's love Bronco take us next?
You never know.
Okay, so when did you figure out the mystery? It took me most of the time. I figured out pretty early. I'm like, okay, they want us to think it's this person, but it's really this person. This one, they actually had me going because they did a nice little clever moment of splitting up who had the trouble and who was, the perpetrator of the crime, actually, right? Because the person, Bill had the trouble, and it wasn't really a crime what he was doing, it was just inconvenient as fuck, whereas Katerina is the one who actually committed the crime. So I remember watching and being like, I think it's Bill or Katerina, but I can't figure out like which one it is, and then it turned out to be both.
Yeah, no, I actually like the way they did that because I was starting to think Bill accidentally killed his own brother, but then I did the TV thing where like, no, there's too much time left. Something else happened. So, and that wasn't typical for them in my memory of Haven episodes, so it was kind of neat. Yeah. Wow. Just so happened there was a crime that happened, same time as the trouble.
Yeah.
That was done pretty well. That was some pretty good writing there.
I thought also, just from like a writing perspective, that the first half of the episode was, aside from those 2 filler scenes we got, other than that, the actual episodes of that were originally part of the script, it was super fucking tight. We were given, I remember I paused, I was like, all right, what do we, the 44 minutes or whatever this episode is, 42. I was like, yeah, we're probably like, I'm probably like 36 minutes in or 33, 32 minutes in. So I'll pause it, I just wanted to check the timeline. And then it turned out I was only 21 minutes or 23 minutes and I was a little over half, and I was like, holy shit, like they've managed to set up a lot with a bunch of characters, because, they give us the 2 brothers, the, one brother's wife, the sous chef. They give us, we met all these farmers. We met Eleanor, we got reintroduced to Eleanor, I should say, from the pilot. We got to see Vince and Dave. Who am I missing? The lobster roll guy. We got to meet John Robert.
John Robert. It's just an asshole name, John Robert.
Yeah. So it was a great.
If you're named John Robert, take no offense. I don't add you to the list of celebrities who are going to kick my ass. So yeah,
I thought it was great economy of space. They packed in so much information, but not too tight that I was like, oh my God, my head's flying. It was like at a nice pace. And then we got to enjoy the mystery for the second half versus normal episodes. A lot of shows like this will pussyfoot around for like 30 minutes and then spend the last 8 minutes solving it and then 2 minutes, to wrap up. So this one, it did so much heavy lifting in such a fast way, such a quick way in the first half that it gave us a lot of room to breathe in the second half.
Yeah, definitely. The pacing was there. They gave us all of the potential suspects, and there was a good amount of them. John Robert was a potential suspect. Bill, Jeff are potential suspects in this. And Meg's a suspect in this. And turns out Katerina is the killer.
Does she give you Hillary Swank vibes? Like when she had her like sous chef hat on, I kind of was like, is that Hillary Swank? Or like somebody who looked, I didn't think it was actually her in Haven, but like, I was like, oh my God, that's like Hillary Swank.
Yeah, kind of the thin face, the lips, the lip area. Yeah, I thought that as well. I was disappointed, I was disappointed that we didn't get the continuation more about Lucy and the Colorado Kid, at least a nugget or a little something, or, even just to mention it. I don't even recall them mentioning it.
No, I don't even think they mentioned it.
Well, the opening scene with Duke. She wants to ask him questions about the Colorado Kid, and man, I don't talk to cops, and all chefs are assholes. I just
is a kind of in my experience kind of true. I don't know,
but and that's the thing is, it's a tired. We got to put up with like 30 shows by Gordon Ramsay as it is. Can we get a break from it in Haven? Ernst and Dunn used to be restaurant owners in Minneapolis and St. Paul, and they said in the commentary, Ernst says, there are some nice chefs, but they kind of pretty much usually are assholes. And what about the scene in the boutique? I mean, that wasn't that creepy?
Yeah. Not Haven's finest hour. Once again, these scenes like Duke undressed Audrey because she, fell in the water. And now like Vince and Dave are helping her shop for a dress and she's tossing the dress over the walls while they kind of fan themselves.
Well, the looks on their faces. Oh my God. I mean, then at the end, Audrey's like, "You're staring at me again," and then Dave replies, in a To Catch a Predator way, but in a good way this time.
Yeah.
Now he kind of gets funny when he goes, "That sounded creepy even to me."
Yeah.
I think that's how he kind of saves it, but man, it's pretty creepy.
If he didn't have that line, it'd be like, like what the fuck?
Well, yeah, and then Dave's busting Vincent's balls, and he's like, hey, "Forget about it. You're 70 years old." And I'm like,
I mean, that's pretty fair advice. He shouldn't,
Yeah, but.
Don't get any ideas, Vince.
But then he goes full on perv himself. The look Dave gives, I'm like, oh my God, you would, oh my God.
The funny thing is about when they were shooting that, she probably wasn't even there. They're probably just looking at, like a blank. They're just looking at like the crew, on the other side of the boutique, right? Like on the other side of the camera.
Well, and then we get in the commentary that the dresses are thrown over. It's the same 2 dresses, repeatedly. Yeah. And I didn't even catch that. I admit, I didn't have that.
Because you're looking at people's faces. You're not really looking at props like that. Unless it's like a highlighted prop, right? You kind of don't care. You're looking at emotions and like body movement and where it lands on the screen.
Right. And I was a little disappointed in the commentary because they're like, oh, yeah, the guy who plays Vincent was on X-Files. And I'm like, what? I don't remember him on X-Files. And I missed big chunks of the X-Files. And then they come back like 10 minutes later like, oh, just looked it up. Turns out wasn't on X-Files. I'm like, man.
Yeah, why don't they just cut that out of the commentary?
Yeah, cut that out of the commentary.
I mean, we cut all the shitty parts out of this. No, I'm just kidding. We'd have to cut the whole thing.
There's no editing. This is just
it's just raw.
Raw gold. Just that scene was creepy. I don't think that would fly nowadays. I mean, I think they would get complaints. People would be tweeting about that shit.
Like, what the fuck is this? Yeah, I think it's definitely a relic of stuff in movies and TV shows that was cool 20 years ago that they kept in their back pocket as like a filler scene. But I think in retrospect, you're kind of like, and I think honestly, even for 2010, I don't know if this is like cool. I think essentially after the new guy made fun of how weird those scenes are. Do you remember what I'm talking about? He goes to the mall with the girl. I can't remember any of the actors' names, but he goes to the mall with her and she's trying on clothes.
He's DJ Qualls.
Yeah, I know him.
Eddie Griffith is his.
Right. He's at the mall and she's tossing her clothes over and he's just getting so excessive with like his gum and lollipop. I think she tosses a lollipop at him and he's like, I don't know, like licking it really hard and he's pulling the gum out of his mouth like super intensely. I think after that, I can never take one of these scenes seriously again.
By the way, The New Guy is an amazing movie. It's very underrated. It's hilarious.
Duke, Bill, and Jeff's group as kids were after they don't kill the duck, they make PB&Js, they call themselves second chancers and they always give each other second chances afterwards. I thought that was a super King thing, like super Stephen King. Like, obviously, none of this is directly from anything King wrote, but I felt like a group of kids calling themselves second chancers is straight out of like some King story. That was pretty good.
That could have been the name of the gang in It. They could have changed it to the Second Chancers because they saved him when they were, had him in his underwear and, they threw the rocks. I can't remember which.
That's Dreamcatcher.
Oh, that's Dreamcatcher. See, it's any one of them. Sub it for any group of King's kids.
Yeah, Stand By Me, It, Dreamcatcher, whatever. Just, all the groups of kids are Second Chancers.
Now, the key is if there's ever anyone in the show named Ace, that's the one that always sticks with me. Only Ace I know is Ace Frehley from Kiss. Come on.
I worked with an Ace, but that wasn't his birth name. It was his nickname.
Yeah, I mean, you just get set up to be called Acehole all the time.
So, no pancakes this episode. We go 2 straight. Now we've gone without 2, but I'll give it a half point because we saw a giant sign for maple syrup at the farmer's market at the beginning. So no pancakes, but we got syrup.
Hey,
Haven's 2. I'll give it a half point. 2.5 out of 4 so far on pancake references.
Well, Haven is Lunenburg, Nova Scotia. You would expect maple syrup, and I can't remember exactly when they had. I can't remember if it was 10 years ago or even a little further. There was a maple syrup shortage up in Canada. Actually, organized crime was like stealing the syrup. I thought that'd be like a really cool show, the Maple Syrup Mafia. They could be all French guys with like mafia nicknames like Luc Paul, the Slasher, LeMahieu, or some shit like that. Just like all these French lumberjack looking guys, but they were the Maple Syrup Mafia.
Maybe that's someone's trouble is they're the ones, maybe they deteriorate syrup around them or absorb it or something.
I tell you what will absorb the syrup around them are United States Army pancakes. We call it disappearing syrup because it sinks in and you can't taste it.
Where does it go?
It's a mystery.
I think that's pretty much it. Same director from episode 3, Rachel Talalay, who I think is a difference maker. I think her episodes are way better. Same writer, Anne Hamilton, as Butterfly. She also worked on Dead Zone, so that's how she got this job, I'm assuming. That also left me with a mixed bag of what's going on, because I really didn't like Butterfly. When she wrote this episode, I liked. And then this director, I've liked both her episodes a lot. So it just brought up the question to me that was like, it's always hard to figure out kind of who to blame or whose shoulders does the responsibility fall on for something not being as high quality when there's so many, cooks in the kitchen?
So how did you feel about old Big Benji's wrapping his meat hooks around Nathan there?
Not pleased. I very much am like Nathan, or I don't really want anyone hugging me. I don't want anyone touching me or hugging me. That's definitely well, I guess they're not in the Midwest. I was gonna say that's a Midwest shit right there where everyone wants to fucking hug you, but they're more, Northeast.
You can't imagine what it was like when I got out of the Army. So I get out of the Army, I go to college, I work as a pharmacy tech, on the weekends, pay the bills. And then I graduate, 9/11 happens, the economy goes to crap, so I have to take a job in a health insurance call center, answering complaints all day. It's me and like 70 women. Every Friday, they'd be like, we got to hug it out. And I'm like, I'm 2 years removed from being an Army sergeant, and now you want me to hug you. I'm like, you're going to see me Monday. I'm coming back. I need the check. But then I'd make a face, and they get close, and they back off. But then they were all upset. So eventually I just had to relent and learn to take a hug even though I didn't want one. Just like when your friends get drunk and you got to take a hug you really don't want either.
It's a skill they don't teach you in school. No, hugging 101.
Should be a course on it. Yeah. So back to this episode. Did you ever eat a fucking lobster pup?
I'm not into seafood in general. I'm not into lobster. Too fishy for me. So probably not. I probably wouldn't eat. I don't even eat good lobster, let alone shitty lobster.
I mean, I did find it funny when John Robert, after he was sick, he's like, "I'll never eat fish again." And then Nathan's like, "What about lobster pup?" And he's like, "Why would I want to eat that?" Exactly. I grew up eating seafood and loving it, growing up on Lake Michigan, but turned 18 and lost my taste for it. Makes me sick.
Let's answer. We had a couple questions from last couple of episodes. I'll start with our first question, which is actually a trick question. We were talking about the kid from Butterfly who, had the trouble, Bobby Mueller. I don't know if we figured it out. We asked you what King property he's from.
Mueller.
None. There is no Bobby Mueller, but I did find a Sally Mueller in it. In the what do they call it? The Losers Club?
Yeah, I think that's it.
I think that's what they're called, the Losers Club. Listen to the next episode to see if we figure out what the group's called in it. Yeah, that's your next question.
Just keep listening so that we can correct mistakes every time. So
that's a true or false. Were they called the Losers Club in it? Tune in. Send in your answers at our email. So.
I looked for Bobby Mueller too, and I could not find him.
But there is a Sally Mueller. Maybe Bobby Mueller, because she was in school with all the kids in 1956 in Derry. Maybe this is Sally Mueller's grandson. You never know. And then our second question we asked the audience was one you pitched at him, if you want to kind of rephrase the question and give us our answer.
So, yeah, the question was, Stephen King was born Stephen King, but his father was not born with the last name King. Now, the question is, what was Stephen King's father's original last name? And the answer to that is Pollock. Stephen King's father was Pollock. And the thing is, back in the way it's spelled, some people might mispronounce it as Pollock. So my guess would be he didn't want to have a last name that could be called Pollock because people nowadays probably aren't familiar with it. But growing up in the 70s and 80s in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is heavily Polish and German, Pollock was a derogatory term for Polish immigrants and people of Polish descent in America. So it was derogatory. It came with the stereotype that all Polish people are stupid, and they, dumb Polak jokes I grew up with. Not personally, I thought they were hilarious. I'm half German, half Polish, so I didn't take offense or anything at that. They're just fun, stupid jokes, but some people don't find it and funny. Just an example, one of the jokes kids would tease up the Polish kids with, how do you get a one-armed Polak out of a tree? You wave at them. Because they're too dumb, they'll wave back and drop out of the tree. Just something that I thought was kind of interesting that he changed his last name, even though, because when you think of the painter Jackson Pollock, we know it's pronounced Pollock. It's probably pronounced Pollock for King's dad, but didn't want people calling him a Polak.
Yeah, I got one more for you, left over from last week. I'll save the answer for next episode, just like you did with this one. We'll see if you know it. So Stephen King in 99 gets hit by a car? Or was it? Yeah, so he's in the hospital for a long time. Right? Yeah. So the person who also hit him got murdered, by the way. Or did they go missing? Something like that. But that's not the question. He's in the hospital. He's feeling down. He's feeling terrible. Feels like shit. And his son, Joe Hill brings a movie for his dad to watch to kind of, just to entertain him because there's nothing to do in the hospital. Do you know? And the movie apparently scared the shit out of Stephen King. He said it was one of the scariest movies he's ever seen while he was in there in the hospital. Do you know which movie it was?
I do not know. I mean, I would have guesses, but I do not know off the top of my head. I don't recall that.
Okay, so let's get two guesses.
The Ring.
Oh, I'm not going to confirm.
Okay.
That's why you give your two guesses, and then next week I'll tell you if you were right. The Ring's your first option.
I'm just thinking about which movie scared the shit out of me, and The Ring scared the hell out of me. And I usually don't get scared in movies. I mean, I get creeped out. Carpenter has ways of creeping me out. I mean, some of the images in Into the Mouth of Madness gave me nightmares as an adult.
So yeah,
you remember the first time you saw it?
Yeah, I remember. So he was hit in '99, by the way. So that's when he went in the hospital. It was summer '99.
Yeah. See, I think I'm wrong.
All right. So let's get some options in here. If you want to rescind The Ring, let's get two good choices.
The Grudge was a little scary with the that. Those are my two guesses. I know they're not right, but those are my two guesses. I can't think of anything. It's killing me now. I got to wait a week to find out.
You want to find out the answer? Go ahead and email us. That'll be it for episode 4. We'll return to the town beneath the town in 1 week. And if the quickest way to reach us is by email, you can contact us at troubledrewatchpod@gmail.com. Once again, you can find us on a plethora of services where you listen to your podcasts like Apple, Google Podcasts, Podbean, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. We'll also have the podcast up on YouTube if that's all that is available to you. Sorry, without video. And we'd certainly appreciate a review or a like and a subscribe, depending on wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you want the podcast straight from the source, you can visit us at troubledpodcast.com. We'll have all our episodes, news, and the like all in one place for you. And if you want to follow us on Twitter for updates, you can follow us at Havens Troubled. That's a capital H and a capital T. And last but not least, if you like what you've been doing, if you like what we've been doing so far, it's cool if you like what you've been doing so far too. We're on Patreon. Just search for Troubled or Return to Haven or look in the show notes. And we're doing exclusive episodes there called Troubled with Extra Syrup. The first episode is focused coverage on The Colorado Kid, the novella that inspired Haven. There's only one tier for monthly patrons at $5. There may be some merch in the future, but we're not totally certain on that. And if you have anything else you want to see for patron tier, lay it on us. We're always excited for listener feedback, even if it's just to tell us how to stop sucking.
Right, definitely. Please, you got ideas for things you want us to cover, questions. I mean, questions about Haven. Heck, if you got questions about the goofy stories that tell about Alex's childhood or, that sort of thing, go ahead. I'll answer them. He might not like it, but I'll answer them.
Yeah, we'll see who controls the email for the for the podcast.
I want to thank everyone for listening. We hope that you'll be back next week for another Return to Haven. Everyone, just thanks again. Be safe and never let your troubles get you down.